Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Comrade salute. Revolutionary salute. This is the Underlock and Key Show, and my name is Malik Aleem, aka King Knowledge. Alright. So notes on advancing the struggle inside. Recruitment and retention for revolution. One aspect of organizing that is paramount for recruitment and retention of revolutionaries is comprehending the psychology of the oppressed. Oppressed psychology is not meant to insinuate some distinct or identifiable character flaw or whatnot inherent to those oppressed, nor is something which destines oppressed to be the whipping boy of the oppressor. Oppressed psychology denotes how the system influences oppressed nations into believing, accepting, and living in adherence to a mentality and mode of existence calculated to promote the greatest benefits for both the oppressor classes and capitalism overall. Just contemplate what allows us to lash out at others who are equally oppressed, but by and large do little to resist or confront our oppression. In prison, this war, the oppressed psyche, expresses itself in no uncertain terms. This is what we are. It is what we do or we can do. It's an acceptance of the lot foisted upon our shoulders. I have identified this as a type of Stockholm syndrome, where we, the oppressed, validate and reinforce an ideology and mentality detrimental to self-determination. An oppressed psyche is a crippling inhibitor. First, it dissuades us from considering any meaningful steps towards resistance. For instance, this is the way things are, have always been, or any resistance can only worsen an already bad situation. Second, because we accept it as part of who we are, its laws equals our laws of identity. This is expressed in comments such as "there's nothing else for me in life," or "if not a criminal, then what am I?" Third, it promotes half measures and depreciation of our value as revolutionaries. We may very well feel nobody will care one iota about what we had to say or think. These and more are the serious impediments to sculling the oppressed psych war. Indeed, these are monumental obstacles, but not insurmountable. As stated elsewhere, the surest method of overcoming wars is demonstrative action. It is the duty of revolutionary leaders to disseminate among the masses the consciousness of their identity and their tasks. This duty translates to practice in build, break, build. Once we, as organizers and leaders, have forged an iron weapon of proper foundations, correct political line, appropriate application of dialectical materialism, and understanding of the struggle, it must be launched at oppressed psych walls like a spiked hammer in order to chip away and break them down. After bringing down the walls, it remains to build up a new revolutionary structure. There are too many variations in people's characteristics, backgrounds, and such to lay down any definitive universal rule or guidelines to be followed in the build, break, build process. The only general rule I cannot acknowledge is, after an initial engagement in breakage dialogue, organizers should chart their next steps depending on the amount of lack of receptivity they encounter. Also, it is important to recognize people generally treat new concepts with ambivalence at best. A key aspect of the oppressed psyche is to cling to what is familiar and be cautious of the new or unknown. To be certain, the oppressed psyche is a formidable wall. Breaking it down may require several attempts going back over old sections of the wall previously chipped away. Focus the breakage dialogue on hard questions like those asking if Black Lives Matter don't integrate into America, or the issues highlighted by the Brown Berets, mobilized Raza for independence. The building of revolutionary consciousness and purpose is a duty which demands thoroughness. Like an aggressive cancer, at times you must operate in an old area anew. Wars such as oppressed sight are a cancer degrading the revolutionary movement, inhibiting the mass consciousness of their role and task, complicating recruitment, and all but precluding retention. In organizing, we must recognize walls, the psych walls, right? And be prepared for build, break, build. All right. Now, what it says, Mombada's Raza for independence, right? This is for my Chicano brothers. All right. All matter is in motion. And so, with this motion, we will continue to find new ways to apply the proper response to new ideas and, of course, new actions. We'll create new reactions. Each of us has to find a strength and opportunity into any area in our life. In this development, we become more capable of helping others with the same issues. Today's Chicano nation is at a crossroad. The Raza population is growing faster than any other. In a couple of decades, we will be the largest population in the United States. We have to understand whatever changes we experience holds opportunity. In other words, external events often happen as means to facilitate internal change and consciousness. Once the interconnection is grasped, all theoretical belief in the permanent necessity of existing conditions break down before the collapse in practice. One moment. I believe that in the independence of each nation is a unity that will help mobilize broader masses. Then we begin to understand the importance of windows of opportunity. Chicano power is not simply being in charge. We don't want to mimic capitalism, but merely exercise social, political, economic power where socialist relations of productions replace capitalism. Without the influence of imperialism, we know that imperialism defines crimes and pushes oppressed nations into committing the crimes, knowing most minority already have nothing to lose, and all well armed when revolutionized can serve as the fiercest fighters. We were not created by the same social and material forces which govern Mexican life, but by the imperialist venture of the annexation of the Americas. Our existence is therefore not defined by the reality of the border, but by social and material forces that have influenced the way we develop since before and after its imposition. Aztlan represents the land which was invaded, occupied, and stolen from the Mexican nation. The Southwest is home to many Chicanos and non-Mexican indigenous nations, each with a universal right to govern themselves and exist as a sovereign and autonomous people. Thus, the era of imperialism is the era of new democracy, where a democratic struggle must be led and raised by the masses of the popular class in the united front where the primary goal is national liberation. This August, we commemorate the Plan de San Diego, which was a plan for new democracy for the internal semi-colonies occupied Turtle Island. It is time to study Chicano history and Boricua history and apply internationalism. Write the Myris International Ministry of Prisons for information flyers on the campaign and submit your own essays and art. Peace. One Lord, one people. One Lord equals one people. Stay noble. Power to the people. Pa'lante, siempre pa'lante.